Hi everyone. In our last few lessons, what we've learned is first how to solve quadratics by factoring, and then how to solve them using the quadratic formula. What I want to do for today is look at the relationship between the factors and the solutions, or the answers, and there's actually a real nice shortcut that you can come up with. So let's start off talking about when we were solving by factoring. Here's an example of an equation that's in factored form. So you have your two factors, each one is in parentheses. One factor is x minus 3, the other is 3x plus 2, and importantly, the equation is equal to 0. So you can use the zero product property to separate it into two equations. Either the first one, the x minus 3 is 0, or the second one, the 3x plus 2 is 0. So let's go ahead and do that. We've done it before, but I want to do this one example, and then we can talk about the shortcut. So either the first factor, the x minus 3 is 0, or the second one, the 3x plus 2 is the 0. So the first factor you can solve in one step. If you want to cancel out a minus 3, you use a plus 3. So the minus 3 and the plus 3 cancel. 0 plus 3 is 3. So your first answer would be positive 3. Now the second one takes two steps. The first thing you want to cancel is the plus 2, and we'll use a minus 2. And the 3x drops down, and 0 minus 2 is negative 2. And then the second step, we still have to get rid of that 3. So we would divide by 3, and you get negative 2/3 for your other answer. Now, let's take a look without doing that work where those answers come from. Let's start with the x minus 3. If I set it equal to 0, and I want to cancel that minus 3, I'm always going to do the opposite. I'm always going to end up with a plus 3. Now, since the equation was equal to 0, if I add 3 to both sides, the answer is always going to be positive 3. So what happens, without doing that work, we get this nice, neat shortcut where instead of taking the x minus 3, setting it equal to 0, doing the work and solving, all I really have to do is change the sign on that number. So if the factor is x minus 3, the answer is positive 3. Or if the factor is x plus 10, the answer would be negative 10. So you got this nice, neat shortcut. We're not going to need to do this work anymore. We're going to have a shortcut where we can just say, okay, if the factor is x minus 3, just change the sign. The answer is positive 3. Now the other one, there's one extra step. So the first part is the same. Like I take this positive 2 here and I change the sign. That's where this negative 2 right here comes from. But then I have one extra step. I have to divide, or basically make a fraction, and put it over this number here. So it's a little bit harder, but you can still do it without all of this work here. It's two steps instead of one. So for my first factor, x minus 3, I would just change the sign. The answer is positive 3. For the second one, I would take that and I would change the sign, get the negative 2, but then make it a fraction and put it over the 3. So here, I went ahead and typed it into a slide. I walked through verbally those rules with you, but here are the shortcuts. If your factor is just x plus or minus b, any number b, it doesn't matter if it's a plus or a minus. All that matters is that there's no number in front of the x. Then all you have to do is change the sign and you're done. Very, very simple. Now for the factors ax plus or minus b, meaning there's a number in front of x, that number in front of x right there tells you that it will be a fraction answer, always. So what you do is you do the normal thing. You take that number b, you change the sign on it, but you make it a fraction and you put it over a. And those are your shortcuts. And that's the relationship between factors and solutions. So here's a very simple example. I said use the shortcut to solve for x without doing any work. So I'm not going to make two equations. I'm not going to add to both sides. I am just going to very quickly use my shortcut to get the two answers. So for the first one, I take that, it's an x plus 4. I take that and I change the sign, get a minus 4, and that's it. You just box it up, you're done. I mean, it's that easy. Now the second one has one extra step. I'm going to take that -7, I'm going to change the sign to +7, but then I'm going to make it a fraction and put it over that number right there. +7/2. And those are your two answers. So the relationship between the factors and solutions, it has to do with changing the sign and maybe making a fraction if there's a number in front of the x. But now all of a sudden you don't have to do all that extra repetitive work where you say, okay, so x plus 4 equals 0, -4 minus 4, x equals -4. Or 2x minus 7 equals 0, plus 7 plus 7, divide by 2, and then get that work. We have this nice neat shortcut that lets you know the answers immediately just by looking at the factors. And the shortcut works backwards too. That's the nice thing about it. So we know if you have factors, you can quickly and easily turn them into the answers or the solutions. Well, if I give you the solutions and you understand that shortcut, you can work backwards and get the factors. So let's do this one right here. Let's say we have an equation, quadratic equation, and we have two answers or two solutions. X equals -6 and +1/2. Let's see if we can work our shortcut backwards and come up with the original factors from the problem. So let's start with the -6. That's the easy one. When you have a whole number, you know that there's no number in front of x, and all you have to do is change the sign. If my answer is x equals -6, then my factor was x plus 6. Now the other one is a fraction. It's a little bit tougher, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to put my x in, but I'm going to leave a space for a number in front of it, because it is a fraction. So what I do is I take the top of the fraction, that's basically the same thing I just did with the -6. I change the sign, and I put it after the x. So since it's a +1, or a +1/2, I'm going to put a -1 here. Now the bottom of the fraction, or what you are dividing by, that's the number that goes in front of the x. So I'm going to put the 2 there. And that's it. That's our original equation. And then you can make it equal to 0. And basically what we're doing is we're taking these factored equations, and by understanding the relationship between factors and solutions, we are able to work them forwards or backwards. Because if you have one, you automatically have the other. If you have the factors, you can easily get the solutions. And if you have the solutions, you can easily get the factors.